Her arms trembled as she held the newborn in her arms. She brought this baby into the world moments ago. Her aunt sat next to her and gave her a warm smile. Many firsts would take place on this day. The 11-year-old Jessie Corrigan would be experiencing motherhood for the very first time. 11-year-old Jessie Corrigan lived a happy life with her aunt. While the circumstances that brought her into her aunt's life weren't ideal, she still regarded her as family. Seeing her as her own mother, she raised her with love. Her mother hadn't planned to become a mother, so her aunt offered to take care of Jessie after she was born. A couple of days later, she was legally her guardian. Aunt Miranda was much older than her sister. Her sister was 18 years old, and she was 25. When Ellen decided that she did not want to have a child, Miranda gladly took over. 11 years later, Jessie and Miranda were inseparable. Miranda loved Jessie like a daughter. On the other hand, Jessie had no notion she would soon become a mother. Jessie was your average 11-year-old girl. She went to a private school in Michigan. Her aunt did everything a mother would. She made sure Jessie would get on the bus safely in the mornings, and she would make her lunch as soon as she arrived home from school. Jessie dreamed of becoming a professional horse rider when she grew up. In the end, though, something she could never have imagined would overshadow her goals: motherhood. One morning before school, Jessie felt sick. She felt nauseated and threw up. She was also suffering from a migraine. She was perplexed as to what was going on. She immediately sought assistance from her aunt. Her aunt just thought her niece just had a case of the flu and went about her day. Her mistake wasn't apparent to her. Jessie stayed home for a few days until she felt strong enough to go back to school. She got ready for school, even though she still didn't feel 100. Her education was much more important than lying in bed. That day was difficult for her. She tried her best to give her all at school, and she was thankful when the last bell rang. As soon as she arrived home, she climbed into bed. However, she did not know that things would be different the next day. Her day began at 6 a.m. She preferred to start the day early when she could, though that wasn't always possible. The bus was scheduled to arrive at 7:30, so she needed time to get ready. Her morning would be unlike any other she had ever experienced, but she was not prepared for it. And in the end, a new life would come to the house. Jessie was busy getting ready for school when she was interrupted by her aunt screaming. She rushed to her room and was taken aback by what she saw. When she walked into her aunt's room, she realized that she was in labor. Her aunt was pregnant and tried her best to not pay too much attention to that fact. However, she needed help at that moment. Jessie was the only person around to help her, and it was too late to go to the hospital. There was no turning back for Jessie. Jessie felt as if her entire world was whirling around her. She was in a state of disbelief. At the age of 11, she couldn't imagine delivering a child. Her aunt assuaged her fears by assuring her that she would be okay. The baby was due much sooner than expected. She needed assistance, and no one else in the house was available. Jessie recognized her responsibilities immediately. Her stomach turned. She felt anxious, but her aunt was very supportive. The baby would be delivered in their home, and she realized that she was the one who would be delivering the baby. She had to put on a brave face. This was her first time doing something like this, but she hoped everything would be okay. It would only take an hour or so of bravery before it was all over, and she'd be delighted to welcome the newest addition to the family. Jessie felt her hands shake as she held the baby in her arms. She had just delivered this beautiful baby into the world. Her aunt lay next to her, and the two of them smiled at the glow of the child. It would be a day of many firsts. And for Jessie Corrigan, the 11-year-old would know for the first time what it would be like to be called a mother. The newborn clumsily grasped out with his infant's hands. Their hearts melted as he grabbed Jessie's finger in his small grasp. Her aunt softly said, "Jude, his name is Jude." She smiled. She knew how much her aunt loved the Beatles and the song, "Hey, Jude." It only seemed appropriate that she'd name him after her favorite song, but what her aunt said next would change her life forever. Jessie's aunt smiled at her and told her the good news, that she would be the baby's godmother. Jessie's eyes teared up. Her aunt was the only family she knew, and now to not only have a new family but be their godmother too. Jessie was speechless. She had always wanted a baby brother, and now it was more than that. She would make sure to help her aunt look after him whenever she could. Just as Jessie got lost daydreaming about her new family member, her aunt snapped her out of it. "The school bus is going to be here any minute." Jessie looked down at her clothing and knew she needed a change of clothes. After 10 minutes, Jessie was ready and awaiting the school bus outside, Jude on her mind the whole time. The bus arrived and Jessie hopped onto it. She looked at the children around her and felt a new perspective. They had no idea what she had just been through, and she felt different, more mature. She sat down and looked through the window of the bus. She saw her aunt waving at her from her bedroom window. She couldn't believe what she had just accomplished. All in time to catch the bus. She was now a godmother and she'd never live it down.